Мощнее!
Помогите! Помогите! Да, иду!
Мне лучше. Мне понравилось. Прессинга. Прессинга. И еще один.
Соберись.
Неплохо, всадник. Берегись меня. Легче.
Тебе не рысь! Ой, доспехи!
Прессинга.
Нет!
Моя совесть чиста. Странная сила.
Прессинга. Сколи.
Нужна помощь!
И еще один. Прессинга. Прессинга.
Странная сила. Нужна помощь!
Иду!
Он погиб.
Ой, доспехи! Умри, мятежник! Король тебя уничтожит!
получил! Теперь мы непобедимы!
Его убили!
Убей!
Прессинга!
Волшебные стрелы!
Уложил одного!
Предатель! Это же магия!
Прессинга! Прессинга!
Предатель!
Прессинга!
Умри, мятежник! Помогите! Мои доспехи!
Коли!
Каково тебе?
Коли!
Это же магия!
Прессинга! Гораздо лучше. Прессинга!
Умри, мятежник! Роль тебя уничтожить!
Прессинга! И еще один!
Твоя магия работает.
Умри, нечестник!
Прессингер!
Моя магия работает.
Но... Нет! За помощь!
Прессингер!
Умри, нечестник!
Кристовиндер!
Нужна помощь!
Намного лучше.
Эй, моя броня!
Отлично.
Гораздо лучше.
Очень дела.
Прессингер! Прессингер! Кристовиндер! Получил!
Соберись. Можешь быть полезен.
Прессингер! Прессингер!
Один я бы не справился.
Прессингер!
Неплохо, всадник.
Хороший рывок.
Можешь быть парень.
Неплохо.
The reason why I like him the most, really, I suppose, I think he's like me. He's a bit quirky, and he's not got lots of confidence, but he keeps going. He's got a goal in life, and he just wants to become the best he can, which I suppose I feel the same way.
This would be in the middle of like a very intense battle. The second one would be maybe, you know, just talking, and the last one would be like in the keep where you don't want anyone necessarily to hear.
Saphira! We're trapped on the bridge. The king's soldiers are everywhere. Hurry!
I think that was one of the main reasons why I was picked, to be fair. You know, because they saw someone raw and fresh. And that's what Eragon is, he's raw and he's fresh. But as you gradually go on, both he and I sort of gel together.
It's an ambush! We're outnumbered!
He mirrored Eragon's experience almost, you know, perfectly, and it's true. You know, here Eragon is being thrust into this world that he has no idea what he's getting himself into, and you know, here Ed is being thrown into a world that he has no idea what he's getting himself into.
You see him grow and you see him progress. And I'd like to say that happened with me.
You did it, Saphira! That'll keep them away from the towers for a while. Now the others.
Having Ed Spaliers as Eragon is the crowning moment. Listening to him talk and listening to his voiceover, he brings that charisma into the role and brings it alive in the game.
Stay hidden, Saphira. Do not come into Gilead.
I think that the most fun part to play from the movie would certainly be Eragon, I think, because he's your hero. He's the guy, he has the dragon, he builds up his magic powers as they go along. So there's a sense of journey with that character, there's a sense of achievement, I would imagine, at the end of the game when he's reached his promised land.
Not bad, young dragon rider. There may be hope for you yet.
It's just surreal. The whole process to me is just so surreal at the moment. I'm still just a regular kid. I'm just trying to, you know, well, I'm just having a laugh. You know, that's all I'm doing. I'm just trying to enjoy myself.
Whenever you're working with a premier license or a property, one of the first things you really want to do is explore the property, find out what's interesting, what's special about the property, why do so many people find it appealing, what kind of things would they know about that person or that character, that world, if you were to ask them. The next step, once you get into game design, is to try to align the actual core gameplay concepts with those license themes. That's really where you get the best match between working with a license and actually developing a game based on a license.
We've got one of the most talented developers in the whole video game business working on it, who brought a lot of people in from different film production houses, and these guys are heavily involved, digging really deeply into all the combat mechanics, the magic, and all the other great parts of the game. They're working very closely with the film's production people to really integrate the film and the game to make sure they feel like one and the same.
The first phase of designing a game is really kind of laying down your ideas on paper and then deciding, okay, this is going to work, this isn't really going to work, and then how are we going to actually implement these things? And so there's a lot of pre-planning that goes into it. The second phase is actual implementation, and that's where some things you thought were going to work out beautifully, other things just aren't really fun to play, so you have to really tweak the actual implementation to make it fun.
The way we interact is he has a game design document, and we go through that document, we pull out the new technical features that need to be implemented in the game, we discuss what kind of tools that we would need to build to provide his design team to build out and use that technology to build the gameplay. How are the designers going to lay out the flight paths for the dragon? How are the designers going to lay out the AI and objective points for the enemies to go and how to train their brain? How are the designers going to tag the geometry or the gameplay areas as interactive? It's a very back and forth process. It's really about us trying to meet a middle ground.
We work closely with Fox, and the creative director from the film has given us feedback on all the game design elements that we've put into the game. We have likeness rights for the actors in the game, so we'll be using characters that look exactly like they are in the film.
It's pretty crazy. I just thought, this is absolutely mental. I'm playing as me, and suddenly there's a close-up on falling to the ground. Whoa, he's got the same eyes as me. Oh, he's got the same hair. Oh, it's an animated version of me.
A lot of the core themes in Eragon are based around his growth as a character, his connection with Saphira, this dragon that he finds and basically develops a really deep bond with. Eragon becomes a master swordsman, so we really wanted to explore that in the gameplay and have much deeper combat, much more strategic combat, and just have the battles be way more dramatic. The second theme is Eragon's use of magic, and we really go deep with that in the gameplay. He uses magic to enhance his combat and also for solving puzzles and progressing through the world.
What's going to set Eragon apart from other movie-based titles is that we had the freedom to bring Allegasia to life in ways that aren't presented to the consumer, either through the book or through the movie. We had the ability to take kernels of gameplay or elements of fiction and then bring them to life in new ways that fans of the fiction are going to enjoy in an interactive experience.
What you get when you bring an art director on a project is you get one clear vision that gets followed through from start to finish. With any kind of fantasy property or fantasy game, what you want to do is you want to make sure that everything looks over and above fantastic. What I did was I went back to painters that were painting landscapes. These guys had created some of the most lush and beautiful landscape paintings anywhere, and they had a knack for painting something and then making it look like you're looking at the painting and you're swearing that the guy that painted that must have been the first person to come upon that scene. What we had to do is we had to take those paintings and figure out stylistically what are the essence of these paintings, what are the real key things that make these things look as beautiful as they are, and how can we incorporate that into our art.
John Cleaver is great. He has had a consistent vision for the artistic style of this game, and if it's one thing that you'll see right away as you're playing the game is that there is a continuity throughout the entire game with regard to the art direction.
Tim Ramage, our producer, and John Cleaver went out to Budapest where they were shooting the film, and they took digital stills of the sets as they were building them. They were actually able to get a pretty nice blueprint of all the villages and all the Varden locations. The player's going to be able to walk through the city of Gilead pretty much as it was built. The textures are going to look exactly the same, and it's going to feel like you're really in that location from the film.
There are landscapes in this game that I think have such a cinematic eye to them that it could be a movie unto itself.
The world is full of rich, natural color. It's all about balance. It's about figuring out how much color you need as an accent to fill out a scene or to fill out a location. When I look at the screen, I look at it as if it's a static composition. I want to see how all the little colors that are in there play off of each other and how they balance out.
He brings a very cinematic feel. The way he's basically painted the universe and artistically brought the universe into 3D realm of a video game is unique, and it looks much more cinematic and much more theatrical than anything I've seen before, and it definitely feels like you're living, walking, and breathing in that universe.
There's such a variety of either organic environments or man-made castles, fortresses, that sort of thing. There's interiors and exteriors, and there's a great variety of environments to have to experience gameplay in, and it's all John and his team that have brought that to life.
This is probably as close as I've come yet, film or game, to realizing the vision that I had in my head for how this thing was going to look.
Anytime you have a property, anytime you have a movie where after you've watched the movie, or in our case, read the script, read the novel, you already care so much about the characters. You care about what happens. You understand why the enemies are evil. You understand in rich detail what it is that makes them evil. You begin the game as a player and as a game designer with this intense feeling of, I know how I want this to go. There's stuff that has to happen here, folks. Galbatorix has to be stopped. These people have to be helped. The Varden must be reached. You start with that emotional imperative. As game designers, it's our job to involve the player in those missions and to bring that to life for them. I'm the executive in charge of production. What that really means is that everything that's creative about the game, everything that defines its vision, I don't do. What I do is I help create the team, I help create the structure within which the team can work, I create the environment in which the team can do its job, and then the Eragon team creates the game within that world. At Stormfront, what we like to do is on each of our projects we'll have a design director, and on Eragon that's Ray Gresco, who leads the design, leads the vision for the project, and he holds up that torch of what we want this game to look like, what we want it to be like, what we want it to feel like for a player. And then people pursue that goal. We have the producer who is in charge of how we get there. That's Dave Ross. How we're going to make the whole process work. How do we reach that end? We know we want to invade the beaches of France. We know we've got 500,000 people ready to go. Exactly how are the boats going to get there? What are we going to do when we get there? How are we going to get on land? That idea. And then we have the art director, John Kleber. How is this going to look? What will your eyes pick up? How will you feel about what your eyes see on the screen? How will we take the characters and make their vision real? You saw Eragon in the theater. Now you're going to go home and play Eragon in your home. How are we going to translate that look from the film into the game so all that sense of emotion you have watching the movie comes home with you? Those are all things that have to happen. In audio, Andrew Boyd, the audio director, Rob Mills, the composer, what they're trying to do is take that mood of the film and bring it in and have that translate again into the game. Music drives so much of how you feel, even more than we're conscious of. The sound effects. Does the scene feel real or does it not? The audio guys have to deliver that. So each of those leaders have to be able to produce for their discipline, for their craft, that reality. And we talk about programming at the center of everything. Ken Zhao, the technical director, he is in a position where he has to be able to take the technology and make all these other pieces work. Because without the technology, you're right, they won't all come together. BUG came to Stormfront to create the Eragon game because we're committed to the idea that game design and storytelling can in fact come together in a seamless way, and that you can take the feeling, the emotion, the commitment of a great movie, and you can take that feeling and translate into a video game that will continue living as part of Eragon's world even after the credits roll at the end of the movie.
The story of Eragon is a very epic story, and so we wanted to have a soundtrack to really match that. We were going to be touching on a lot of really cool, heroic themes in the game. There's a large progression in terms of Eragon's growth, his hero's path. So we really wanted the music to capture that. The plan all along for Eragon the game was AAA. And how do you do AAA? You get a top-notch orchestra to do AAA.
Music libraries and sample libraries and electronic music composition has come a long way and sounds fantastic, but you mock up these pieces and you put all sorts of time and effort into making them sound as grand and as full of life as you can, but as soon as you put it in front of a real orchestra and that first note hits and the bows strike and the horns go, there's no comparison.
They secured some of the best movie musicians in Hollywood to do the session for the game.
I think they're peaking out at mezzo forte. We can bring them all up to forte.
Trombones 17 and 19, trombones 1 and 2. Mark those little hits there at mezzo forte. Heck at that, that could be a mezzo instead. There's the flutes and the more rustic percussive elements and things early on. It ends up blowing out into huge orchestral pieces later that really sort of have this sense of scope.
This sounded like it was a movie piece, and just to hear how warm and full the sound was, you can't beat it. You cannot beat an orchestral recording of a soundtrack.
Every element of the experience was just absolutely professional. To every cast member, from the players to the studio crew to the contractors to the arranger, everybody was right there to help you. Everybody was right there doing their job, and everybody did their jobs perfectly. It was a wonderful experience. The musicians were enthusiastic about the music they were performing. We actually at one point had a musician come in and we did a take, and he came up out of his seat and he came into the studio and he was like, "We can dig in. Do you want us to dig in? We can play it a little bit harder if you want." And we're like, "Well, I don't want to tire you out, but if you got it, go right ahead." They're like, "Okay, all right, I'll go out there and I'll tell them we're gonna give it a little bit more." It's like, great, that was that kind of thing. It's going above and beyond what you expect. So
it was nice that we were able to have a sort of relaxed and really enthusiastic and fun atmosphere at the sessions. I think really counted for a lot.
Imagine a grown man doing this.
It's fun. It's big, adventurous video game music. It's fun to hear, and apparently it was fun to play.
Fun to play, yeah.
on the bridge. King's soldiers are everywhere. Hurry!
It's really the core theme of the book and the film is Eragon's bond with Saphira, because as he grows and develops as a character, so does their bond together. So they really are kind of growing together through the book. It's really not just one protagonist, it's really Eragon and Saphira. Saphira is not his pet, and she's not just like a sideline character. She's really her own fully developed character. So we wanted to really explore that and portray her correctly as like a real character that was going to be able to help Eragon along in his quest.
It's a love story, no doubt. I mean, he pangs for the dragon when they're apart. The dragon pangs for him. And they have this kind of oneness. They're speaking to each other through the power of their mind. And you can equate that with a long-term relationship. Sometimes if you're with someone, you don't have to talk, you know what they're thinking.
Saphira, smash the bridge!
What's great about the interaction between Eragon and Saphira is that they're able to communicate mentally, and sometimes they don't actually agree. They'll have different ideas about how something should be approached. In a lot of ways, even though Saphira was just hatched, she's a little bit more wise than Eragon because she's got this ancestral knowledge that she's pulling from, and it just goes along with all of the background of dragons in Alagasia. Basically, in gameplay, it's really great to have her because Eragon can call upon her to help out in an especially troubling situation. So she'll be able to come in and drop boulders on enemies, or burn them to the ground with her fire, that sort of thing, and even just provide ways for Eragon to be able to traverse through the world.
We want to make the user feel like the dragon is always with you in the game as your partner. And so the new technology to support that was allowing the user to bring the dragon in to help the player get through certain situations. And then of course we have 3 levels of dragon flying where the user can experience actually riding on Saphira.
From the concept art and from the direction that we got early on, we had a really good sense visually of what she was going to look like. When you have to kind of apply sound effects, well, I think that requires a bit more creativity.
We went through a bunch of different stuff. We took bed sheets, canvas tarps,
hooded sweatshirts,
a couple leather jackets,
moving blanket on the top of an old Steinway piano.
We just we flapped them. We moved them. We got out in this huge studio room and
set up an array of microphones and just started flapping.
Dragons are iconic characters in the whole fantasy genre, but usually you don't get to interact with them. We've got a unique relationship with the dragon, and we're able to exploit it to make some really cool gameplay stuff.
I think the Dragon Flight turned out great. Graphically, it was well beyond what we thought it was going to be. I think it adds a lot in gameplay because it makes you feel like the universe is much bigger. You're seeing a lot more of the universe that you're going to see in the movie that you've read about in the book. The big epic battle at the end when you're involved in it, it's going to feel very epic and very big because you're up in the sky flying around. You're going to see these huge battlefields in which you're contributing a lot to determining who wins this battle.
I think the results are quite stunning. To see a dragon fly through a world, breathe fire, take down obstacles, and fight another dragon in a very beautiful looking environment. We are very happy with the way it came out.
Eragon, no. It's a trap.
I play Arya. Arya is essentially the courier for what will become Saphira the dragon.
You, Eragon, are the only one that can help. I'm being held in Durza's fortress at Gilead. Please, save me.
I was aware of the project and absolutely desperate to do it. They rang me up and they said, how would you feel about doing Eragon? And I was like, I'd love to. They're like, okay, well, you need to go to the airport now. And you're starting in 2 days' time. I was like, oh, okay.
and on these, if we can go both pronunciations, Sienna, that would be great.
Brizinkar. Brizinkar.
I'd never done sword work before, so I had to work non-stop because Arya's fights are supposed to be the strongest, and she's supposed to be the fastest, and the fastest fighter, and the best at swords, and the biggest athlete and the warrior of the movie.
And maybe one where you're trapped, there's like a dead end and maybe people are following you, you need to find a way out real quick.
Be strong, Eragon.
There is this kind of spiritual, sacred quality to her as a person and to her character, and again, it makes a lot of sense why they ended up casting her. She's a great fighter. One of the greatest things that she really appreciated was the fight scenes.
She's the ultimate fighter. So that was really hard for me because I had to outfight all the boys.
I've got all my spinning moves and all the cartwheels and falling backwards and catching off the dragon's tail and spinning around and spinning on the floor.
There's just no qualms about who's the best warrior. I mean, clearly, Sienna Guillory. She definitely, by far, tough.
I played Durza in the game. He's a shade and he has many, many magic powers.
This is the mighty Dragon Rider. Here's a choice for you, Dragon Rider. Join me, and together we will crush Galbatorians.
There was many, many ways we could have went with the character, even just if we start with something as simple as the accent. At first we talked about him being Eastern European, so we went down that road for a short time and then we thought, no, British villains are actually the best.
Now you will die, Dragon Rider. All of Allegisia will bow before me.
When they cast him as Durza, I just thought, wow, that's really interesting. That's going to be very cool. Just makes the game all that much better because, again, it brings authenticity to the character. And it turns out that he brought Durza to life.
Yes, and it's already sprung. You should have accepted my offer, boy. Now you will pay the ultimate price.
When you're in a sound studio and all you then have to play with is your voice, you can concentrate more on that. Obviously, you tend to embellish the words a lot more. You're aware that it's the spoken word.
Legend has it, the last thing a Dragon Rider hears before being consumed by death is the scream of his dying dragon. The spoken word somehow in a small sound studio such as this, it has a tremendous kind of reverb to it, and you feel a kind of a power, a different type of power.
And again, if you want to open it up, maybe give me one as is, and if you want to open it up after that, feel free.
Risa. Risa.
You know, we'll do a line at a time, and he'll give me very different qualities on each one, and then he'll stop. He'll take a moment, and then he would stop and he'd look right at me, and he'd stop and he'd turn his body over, and he'd look at me, and he goes, did that work? How was that? We're okay? And I go, yeah, of course.
It was a buzz for me because I play these games myself. I'm kind of ashamed to admit.
You know, it's one thing to see Robert in a movie, you know, and Robert's doing his character and he's doing this thing, and he has, you know, he has that brogue and he has that Scottish, that accent and that dialect, and it's another to see him in real life and having him just tell these stories. I mean, he's just such a great storyteller, you know, about his kids or about, you know, soccer or about whatever.
This is my first video game, yeah. I'm pleased to be involved because I've got so many nieces and nephews that play these games and stuff, so they'll get a real kick out of seeing their uncle.
A couple things that Stormfront is known for is sound effects and music. It's not just one guy sitting behind a keyboard putting in many effects in the game. We're using sound effects from the film, and they're taking a lot of time with Foley sound, definitely to give it the more depth.
There's also, once again, trying to match that cinematic epic feel, you know, and we want it to sound like a movie experience. We want, you know, the surrounds to be kicking in at the appropriate moment. We want, you know, the clash of swords and the sound of combat to sound realistic and movie-like.
We went into a studio for a couple of days, actually, and did a huge sound effects source recording session where we did all kinds of things. We captured all new metal sounds for the sword play. We captured various kinds of destruction sounds, some great wing flap source for the dragons flying around, real disgusting combat sounds. We did some great stuff with dog food. I mean, it was especially...
Yeah. everything from just, you know, kneading piles of raw dog food, you know, to get a good squish sound up to
the classic punching a cabbage.
Right, we smashed some cantaloupes. There's all sorts of sounds.
We got a shopping cart and walked up and down every single aisle, banging everything we could find into every other thing we could find. We found interesting sounds.
We were the only customers in the aisle picking up pieces out of, the hinge and hook department and going, ting, 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 ting. It's a good one right here.
There was a great moment where there's a guy actually buying a heating duct. And we just happened to walk by right as he pulled it out of the container, and the sound of him pulling this heating duct out of the container was so great. We looked at each other and said, wow, we have to have one of those. And this guy had no idea what was going on around him, but we grabbed the heating duct. There are scenes in this game that I want to just explode out of your speakers. If I blow up a home theater system, I'm going to be really happy.
Who are you anyway? Murtagh. I'm your new partner, Dragon Rider. I play the character Murtagh. Murtagh's really sort of just a kind of vagabond. He was known throughout the towns as a sort of traitor. And so Murtagh, throughout his whole life, has kind of been growing up with a name that's been poisoned.
This one particular level, this is at nighttime, you're in kind of a stealth mode, so you don't want to talk too loud in this particular level.
When I was just a boy, my family was slaughtered by the king's soldiers. The only person I've ever trusted was myself. When they approached me about coming in for the video game, I was like, of course I'll do that. But I've definitely had my share of playing video games. But to be a part of one is definitely an experience.
He doesn't give you everything all at once. You're always wondering, like, is he up to something? Because, you know, he's also got that prankster quality to him as well. So it's like, is he, you know, you always kind of got to watch him because he's, you know, you just never know what he's going to come up with.
Is that mighty blade too much for you, young Dragon Rider? Somehow this sword just feels right.
Garrett Hedlund was actually the first actor to come in and record. We worked him. He was close to hoarse at the end of the session.
I hold them back. Use your blade. Preparing for the voiceover session is much different than acting in the film. For every line, you sort of dissect it, and you say them over and over with different levels of intensity and energy. Urgles, behind, let's go! I'm surprised I made it through this section. I thought I was going to have laryngitis by the time I walked out of here.
Eragon, call your dragon!
I had good fun with Garrett. He's a good boy. You can tell he's a farm boy, but he's a giggle.
I'm at least happy that my character can wield the sword better than Eragon.
I think a lot of what has happened to me happened because I was born at the right time. Just when computers started being available to college students, I walked in the door of my college, and so the computer was sitting there, and you start to think about, what could we do with this thing? So out of that, as a college writing major, I learned to program. Okay, we're fooling around, we're writing games for each other for fun during the 70s. And then 1980 rolls around and suddenly there's an industry. What I saw in the way that writing and programming fit together is that when I first saw the computer, I recognized that the person on the other end of it could influence how the story went. So to me, programming started out as a new way of being a different kind of writer. You're creating moments, you're creating suspense, and obviously back then it was text adventures and text RPGs and things of that nature. But you're still creating that same sense of suspense, a story where you don't know the ending until you go through. And because you have some form of interactivity, some involvement, it's a completely different form of writing. Games, theater, novels, what do all those things have in common? They have people you care about, things that unfold in a way you cannot predict, and an ending you can't know until you get there, even though you have an idea of what's going on ahead of time. So to me, games, sports, theater, stories, all those things have a lot of things in common. So instead of being 4 completely different ideas or 4 different media, they have a lot of things in common. To me, they all start out from the same basis, and then it's just the stalks of the flowers grow in different directions. In the 70s and 80s, we had one person, basically one project, certainly in the early 80s. So when I wrote Utopia, I programmed it, I did the art, except for one little box I couldn't quite get right. I got a guy to help me with. I did the audio, I made the sound effects, I did the whole 9 yards. I designed the game. Now, you have teams of 50, 75, 100 people, and you need all these specialists to be able to take their talents and unify them to a single purpose and a single vision. So yes, technology is enabling now, but it isn't the center of everything. It's one of the players in the theater. It's one of the actors, but it isn't the center anymore. The center is the vision of what we want the player to feel when they play the game, and that is the ultimate goal. Everybody else now is serving that master.